Do you know what pains me the most? Is that the truth is very hard for people to believe, to digest, to swallow. It's very hard for people to digest too. If you're an Igbo man, then you don't support Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. That means you're not an Igbo. Maybe you are just from somewhere else. Yes, I come out to say it. Maybe you are just from somewhere else. I'm not an Igbo. I'm not a Fulani. I'm not an Hausa. I'm not a Yoruba. But I support that man with my life. With my blood. I support that man. I support him. I support him with my blood. You get why? Now why I tell you say the truth dey very hard for people to digest. The truth, it dey very hard for someone to swallow. It dey very hard. Even if you got a criminal now, very hard to get the truth from that criminal. It's only your IQ you used to get the truth, because you were not there with the time he committed the crime. It's only your IQ you use to get the truth. So the truth dey very hard. It dey very hard for people to swallow. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is a great man. I'm telling you, he's a great man. Someone who comes out to speak.
The statement of a Nigerian police officer declaring, "I'm not even Igbo, yet I support Mazi Nnamdi Kanu with my life," opens an unexpected window into the complex interplay between identity, loyalty, national discourse, and personal conviction within Nigeria's socio-political landscape. Such a declaration is not merely a casual remark, it captures the tension between ethnicity and ideology, and it invites a broader reflection on why certain public figures evoke strong emotional responses that transcend cultural boundaries. In analyzing this objectively, the goal is not to validate or invalidate the officer's viewpoint but to understand the psychological, social, and political factors that shape such expressions. As you listen to this analysis, feel free to subscribe or share your own thoughts in the comments, because public engagement enhances collective understanding of sensitive socio-political conversations. The officer begins by asking, "Do you know what pains me the most?" This rhetorical question indicates a personal frustration and primes the audience to expect a deeper reflection on truth and perception. When he continues by saying that the truth is very hard for people to believe, to digest, to swallow, he highlights a universal challenge in political communication. Truth, particularly in societies marked by competing narratives, historical wounds, and ethnic divergences, is not always embraced based on its factual accuracy. Instead, people often evaluate truth based on alignment with their beliefs, identity, or emotional comfort. This difficulty in accepting uncomfortable truths is rooted in cognitive psychology, especially phenomena like confirmation bias, where individuals gravitate toward information that reinforces their existing worldview. If this type of critical breakdown feels helpful, you can support further analysis by liking or subscribing, as it helps strengthen a community interested in objective perspectives. When the officer repeats that truth is very hard for people to digest too, the repetition itself conveys a psychological struggle. It reflects an awareness that truth is not simply a matter of factual exposure but a matter of mental processing shaped by fear, loyalty, social influence, or cultural narratives. Societies everywhere, not just in Nigeria, wrestle with the tension between truth that aligns with identity and truth that challenges it. This is particularly significant in environments where ethnicity and political expression are intertwined. People may find it easier to accept narratives that affirm their group identity, even when contrary evidence exists. The officer's emphasis on the difficulty of accepting truth underscores how emotionally charged political issues can become, and how truth becomes contested within public discourse. Then he moves into more polarizing territory by asserting, "If you're an Igbo man, and you don't support Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, then you're not Igbo. Maybe you are just from somewhere else." Objectively, this statement represents a form of identity essentialism, where political alignment becomes a test of ethnic authenticity. From an analytical standpoint, such assertions arise when political figures symbolize more than policy, they become embodiments of collective memory, perceived injustice, or aspirations. In such situations, support or opposition is interpreted not as individual political preference but as an affirmation or rejection of group identity. However, in a complex and diverse society, political opinions do not map neatly onto ethnic categories. Individuals within the same group can hold varying views based on personal experience, socioeconomic position, generational influence, or exposure to information. Identity is multifaceted, and reducing it to political alignment oversimplifies the lived realities of millions. If you're still engaged with this reflection, consider commenting with your own observations, as diverse perspectives enrich discussions like this. The most compelling part of the officer's message appears when he distances himself from Nigeria's major ethnic categories. By saying, "I'm not an Igbo. I'm not a Fulani. I'm not an Hausa. I'm not a Yoruba," he presents himself as someone standing outside the usual lines of division, attempting to offer neutrality and objectivity. This rhetorical stance is common in political communication because it frames support as arising from principle, not ethnic loyalty. When he adds that he supports Motsi Nnamdi Kanu, "with my life, with my blood," he employs symbolic language to convey emotional intensity and perceived moral conviction. In academic analysis, such expressions represent affective political attachment, an emotional bond in which supporters view the political figure as embodying values they deeply cherish, whether or not those values are universally recognized. Emotional expressions like this reflect how political movements attract supporters not just through ideology but through perceived authenticity or courage of their leaders. If you appreciate these kinds of deep analysis, subscribing helps you stay connected to future breakdowns of other important political discourses. The officer then elaborates on the difficulty of uncovering truth, drawing an analogy to interrogating a criminal. He argues that it's very, very hard to get the truth from that criminal, and that truth requires the IQ to interpret events correctly. Though the analogy is simplistic, it reflects a common belief that truth in political matters is not always readily available and often requires interpretation rather than direct observation. In societies where information channels are fragmented, between official statements, media narratives, social platforms, and community dialogue, citizens must navigate a complex terrain of claims and counterclaims. The officer's statement suggests that he believes many people fail to interpret information critically, resulting in misunderstandings or misaligned beliefs. This insight aligns with broader research on political communication, which highlights the difficulty people face in distinguishing factual content from emotionally persuasive rhetoric. Your engagement, even something as simple as liking this analysis, helps reinforce spaces where critical thinking is encouraged over emotional reaction. He emphasizes again that the truth is very hard for people to swallow, reinforcing the emotional burden associated with confronting uncomfortable realities. This is a familiar pattern in public discourse around controversial figures. Political leaders who inspire strong loyalty often exist at the intersection of hope, identity, and grievance. Supporters may view them as catalysts for justice or change, while critics may see them differently. Thus, the difficulty of accepting truth sometimes stems from the emotional risk involved in reassessing one's allegiance or challenging deeply held narratives. When the officer concludes this part of his statement by saying, "Motsi Nnamdi Kanu is a great man," he expresses his personal evaluation clearly and without ambiguity. From an analytical standpoint, the significance lies not in whether the assessment is right or wrong but in understanding why individuals adopt such firm positions. Support for public figures emerges from combinations of emotional resonance, perceived integrity, symbolic representation, or alignment with personal experiences. Examining these dynamics objectively can help decode why certain voices become influential within national conversations.